Playing in a band is like being part of a musical conversation. Well, maybe it's more like being at a dinner party. It's not just about what you say or what you play, but when you say it. Maybe it's about what you don't say or play. You get the idea. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. It's both the note choice and the rhythm choices that help your part in the context of the group, because everyone in the group has their own musical part and needs, and it's the assembly of the whole that makes it good. Well, whether you're a guitarist or a bassist, understanding how to arrange your part harmonically and rhythmically can make your band sound tighter and more professional. This week, we're talking about the art of arranging your part when you're playing with others as a unit. Like the song says, come together right now. So baby, let's get nerdy. I'm Andy Schneider, career musician turned guitar coach, producer, and author of over 100 books from my publishing company, Sing Music Books. I was a high school band nerd, then a devoted jazz guy, then a backing musician for great artists in every type of music. From Austin to Nashville to New York City, I've learned from my musical experiences and the great musicians that were there with me. I'm a self-taught guitarist, but I was lucky enough to get the right bits of education early on in my career. Pairing that with the many conversations I've shared with more experienced musicians put me on the path to success, a path that built my skills to become the experienced, confident musician audiences enjoy today. I created the Guitar Nerd podcast to give you simple steps to building and growing your musical knowledge, having greater abilities, and getting that amazing music that's inside of you out and into the world where we can all enjoy it. Whether you're a beginner or experienced guitar or bass player, if you want to make fantastic music, you're in the right place, my friend. Now let's get nerdy. Welcome everybody to Guitar Nerd. Welcome back. My name is Andy Schneider. This is Nerd 1, Nerd Command Post 1. The podcasting HQ for us NRD nerds, a safe place to strategize and share the bits of music knowledge that make the world better through better music jams. I really believe better music is the way to a better tomorrow. It's just my little bit of philosophy that music is good. All you'll find in here, folks, is all the nerdy things that we guitarists and bassists love. The little bits of knowledge of technique and gear and music theory that all come together to make those beautiful things that we call songs. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you've been listening, thanks. Thanks very much and welcome back. And I've got to say, I just got a great piece of news. I just looked in at my Amazon sales today. I have a publishing company. I write music and guitar education books. My company is called Sing Music Books. If you've been to Amazon and looked for any books on guitar playing, you've probably seen my books. Beginner's Guitar Jumpstart has done very well. Sold many, many copies. Well, I just got a little bit of good news. I'm looking at the metrics. Today I had a huge sale that went through the third-party distribution thing. It means that some bookstore, probably some music store, some guitar store, bought a whole mess of books that they're going to, have out for sale on their music racks. That's where they come from. Guys like me end up on your local guitar store shelves. And it's just really flattering because those music buyers have every choice in the world. They're very discerning. They've heard of it all. And for them to make a big purchase like this is probably the biggest I think I've ever seen. It's quite a compliment. So thank you very much for believing in my books. And I don't really ever know where these sales come from, who that is, and I don't know how they got to know me. But I do like to think that maybe it's in small part due to shows like this and the fact that people like you listening to this podcast are spreading the word. So if you've told even one person about this show, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really love sharing the knowledge that I've been fortunate enough to acquire just through good luck and the fates that be. I ended up with a whole head full of music knowledge that helps me to make music easily. And I want you to make music easily, just as easily as I do. And hopefully you'll be making even better music than I do. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. If you're new to making music, you're a total noob, or you're an old school, long in the tooth veteran of music, I hope you'll find something in here to energize your music this week. That's my goal, is to have something for the new and something for us more experienced players that are looking to just sort of re-energize the batteries. Last week's episode was Better Rhythms, talking about subdividing, how to subdivide a beat, more than just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you cut it up into smaller bits than that? It really helps your solidity and to break apart complex rhythms and to make it more easy for your brain to take in and turn into music. So we talked about better rhythms, and we also talked about time signatures, about what that time signature is. If you see a piece of music, sheet music or tab up in the upper left-hand corner, you've got a number over a number. That's the time signature, and so that's what we were talking about then. This week, we're going to be talking about how to play better music with your band, with any band. How to arrange your part for musical success. Have you ever heard a band that just comes together and sounds like mud? Sounds like everybody's making mud together in a big muddy mud pail. It's no fun, is it? And yet there are other bands with many, many players where it doesn't sound muddy at all. Everybody seems to be leaving space for everyone else. The song has a nice groove that's left to the rhythm players. It's got room for the melodies and the vocalists to exist up on top. How do they do that? We're going to talk about it. We're going to get to the bottom of it. You'll find it's quite simple. It focuses on harmonic and rhythmic arrangement. Playing in a band is an exciting and rewarding experience, but it can also be challenging to make sure everyone's parts fit together well. Filling out the song's various sections without stepping on another musician's part is a balancing act. Today, we'll cover some basics on how to arrange your playing to complement the other musicians in your band. It's only when everything comes together that we call it music. Playing in a band means being part of a team. Each member has a role. And when everyone works together, it's apparent. It's apparent to the audience that band is a unit, not just a bunch of people who got together and kind of know each other. Something magical happens when the parts add up to a great song. As a guitarist or bassist, your role in the band varies. Sometimes you're in the spotlight. You're playing the solo. You're playing the melody. Other times you're supporting the melody or the rhythm that's out in the front of the stage, right? There's an expression for those two roles. When you're in the spotlight, when you're performing the melody or you're the vocalist, that's the color. That's the color of the song. Everybody else at that moment is function. If you think about it, the color, the soloist, right? The guitar solo or the vocalist could just stop. They don't always have to be making sound. And there's still a band playing. There's still a song behind it because they're functionally supporting the band. As a guitarist or a bassist, your role can change. Now, we bass players, we're generally function. 99% of the time, we stand behind everybody else and make them look good, make them sound good. Guitar players, your role changes pretty frequently, even in the course of a song, Because unless you're strictly a rhythm player, you're going to be playing function, probably at the beginning of the song, and then playing a solo or playing little bits of melody. That's the color roll. So your role changes from time to time, and it's important to keep your eyes, your ears, your mind on that function. Are you a functional role at that moment, or are you a color role? Listen to the other instruments. Sometimes it requires a conversation to make sure that everybody's working together. But if, for example, the keyboardist is playing heavy, thick, complex chords, both hands engaged on that keyboard, that's a lot of notes. They've got more fingers there than we have strings, so they can play more notes. And at that moment, you may want to back off, not play as many notes, maybe not play in the same register that they're playing, right? Covering up their notes. That's a bad way to arrange, creates mud. And one of the big goals that I have for you is that you're going to have ears to identify when things are getting dangerously muddy. And here's some tools that you can use to avoid that, to step around it, and to get everybody sounding good again. Well, there's two ways to adjust the music so that you avoid the clash, avoid the mud. And that's by harmonic arrangement or by rhythmic arrangement. Imagine if everybody's playing the same big chords all at the same time. Mud, 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 mud. You can't distinguish one note from another. You can't distinguish much of anything. And it lacks an impressive quality. Now, there are times to play together. Think about the chorus of a song. Choruses of songs usually have a high degree of unity between all of the parts, between bass, between guitar, keyboards, all of it. Often playing very similar rhythms. Well, that's cool. And that unity adds a feeling of power. You want choruses to be powerful. That's the point of the song, is to move the listener. After the chorus is over, you got to go back to a verse. And that's when diversity adds a lot of interest and provides some relief to the experience of the listener. Diversity in your arrangement, not playing the same notes at the exact same moments, adds little counter melodies, adds those sub rhythms, or the things that make songs quite memorable and hummable and danceable, and they propel the groove. They hook the listener's ears, and that's a big goal. That's a touchdown for any band. So to talk about harmonic arrangement, I'd like to take you to a book of mine. It's called Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts. I wrote this book to cover a wide range of subjects that are the music theory how-to bits. The bits that working musicians need to get their job done in practical stuff. This isn't the kind of music theory that's purely ivory tower or for specific types of music like classical music or jazz necessarily. It's not highly theoretical. These are the basics, the nuts and bolts, the underpinnings of how stuff goes on. I've got a chapter about playing with other musicians. So one of the things that I encourage guitar players to do is to edit their part or edit their chord. Now, first of all, think of any chord, any big basic chord, any big, could be a big old bar chord, or the first chord you learned, C, open C, or an open E, 5 and 6 strings playing all at once, right? It's a big sound. It's a lot of notes. Probably covers up to what? 2 octaves. That's a huge range. That's like the keyboard player putting both hands on the keyboard and whamming them down. It's a bunch of sound. Well, you don't always need that full of a sound. I'm specifically talking to you electric players because playing rhythm acoustic guitar is often a 5 and 6 string thing. It's about the rhythm. But let's specifically talk about arrangement harmonically for, say, electric guitar parts. Now imagine that big chord that's your favorite chord, 5 and 6 strings. You don't always have to play all 6. Any 3, pick 3. Pick 3 adjacent strings. That's a pretty good chord. Top 3 strings, sure, very musical. Bottom 3 strings, real bass heavy and rhythmic, also good. Maybe the middle 3. Hey, that's a tasty 3. Well, there's not really a middle 3. Any of the middle strings. Play 2 or 3 strings together, and you're identifying the chord pretty well. That is a big piece of arranging yourself with others. So let's go with the special case of a 2-guitar band. I've been in a whole bunch of them. I'm in one right now that I love. And these guitar players arrange themselves very well, very naturally. I remember hearing them talk about it years and years ago. When one guitar player is doing one thing, the other guitar player seldom does that exact same thing. Here we go. Take that favorite chord of yours, that big, maybe it's an open E. I'm going to use open E in my head, an open E chord. If I, guitar player number 1, am playing the bottom 3 strings, maybe guitar player 2 plays his chord on the top 3 or a middle set of 3. Just that will provide some harmonic separation between the 2 parts, and it just sort of cleans the air, doesn't let notes overlap each other. Too much of that, too much of the time, it becomes a little offensive. So think in terms of what's the other person or persons in this band doing? If they are playing up high in a register, maybe you play down low. In my book, Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts, I talk about this and show you a couple of examples of how one guitarist might arrange their chords or choose their notes while the other chooses their notes. I've got just some very simple examples to give you an idea of how to set your mind for a greater musical experience. Sometimes, as in this band I'm in now, one guitar player will play, you know how there's, say, 2 D chords, right? There's a D chord that's open. We play it on the open D string, 2nd and 3rd fret. Then there's a bar chord, D chord, played up at the 5th fret, little bar, major D. The other guitar player might choose to play that one. Even though those are the same notes, they don't sort of clash in as much as if they were both playing the same fingering, the same fretboard position of that chord. The tone of the notes in the bar chord are thicker and meatier. The ones played down near the nut are more strident and brighter and sort of cut through. So it's a very subtle difference, but it's a powerful one. So think about, are you trying to achieve unity by playing the same parts? Or are you trying to achieve sort of a harmonic diversity, sort of a harmonic interest? Harmonic arrangement is one way to achieve a balance and interest in your musical composition, but the other is rhythmic. So let's go back to our example of the 2-guitar band. We've got 2 guitar players. Apart from harmonic arrangement, let's look at a metric, at a time arrangement, so that the 2 guitar players aren't playing the exact same rhythms at the exact same time. Let's add a little bit of interest and diversity. Even if both guitar players choose the exact same chord, let's again use open D. Let's use an open D chord. Imagine guitar player number 1 has a rhythm that goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. 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 Okay, you got that. The first guitar player is playing on 1 through 3. Guitar player number 2 plays on some different beats. 1, 2, and 4 and. And 4 and goes his part. And 4 and 4 and. Hear that? Guitar player number 2's part was arranged in a totally different place from the other guitar player. Even if they're playing identical chords with identical fingerings, it won't sound muddy because they're not playing at the same time. Strategery. Yeah. It's just a little bit of strategy involved in getting things to sound good. So having your ears up and also being willing to work with your bandmates to say, like, I see that you're playing this sort of a part. If you need to be playing that, what could I play around you? Or sometimes you do need to have the tough conversation with your bandmates and say, I need to play this part the way it is, and you are muddying my part. Would you try something like this? There's a polite way to do it, and I've had to have many conversations like that. And as long as you're deferential, as long as you're polite with people, they usually can see your point. It just hasn't occurred to them yet because we all get locked into our ideas, and they're locked into their idea about this is my part and I play my part when they weren't being musically courteous and listening to you. So fear not, even tough conversations get easier with time as you point these things out. Hey, I noticed that you're playing in the exact same range as my guitar part, which is fundamental to this song. Would you mind moving your hand up 1 octave or sprinkling your chord out in a different way? You'll usually get what you want and not lose a friend in the process. Let me tell you about this guy I knew a while back. He always rode around in a green Cadillac. His mama named him Leroy. He always wore a smile, 'cause Leroy Jeffers was a crocodile. Bass players, arrangement is fundamental to you as well. We bass players spend 99% of our lives on the job being in the function role, right? Rarely do we get the solo and get to stand out front. And it's cool when we do, but really the job is largely functional. If everybody else in the band stops playing, you should be able to hear the chords go by. You should be able to have an idea about the rhythm of the song. That's a very, very special, supportive job. So let's be better supportive players and not make other musicians' jobs difficult. So it's easy to understand how to play in unison, right? Playing together. Playing with a mind for arrangement is, in our job, often one of range. We need to be careful because our range overlaps the guitar range and overlaps the keyboard range and overlaps the vocal range. The special end that we bass players own is the lowdown, right? Yes, a keyboard player has some pretty low notes, but bass guitars have a lower low end than a regular guitar. Not that much lower, though. In fact, I probably said this before on this show. As a bass guitar player, you've only got 1 octave that's all your own. The bottom octave of your guitar, from E to E, 1 octave, 12 semitones. The guitar players don't go into that region. They don't have that note. Usually, unless you're playing with a detuned band and whatever. But with traditional instruments, you've got 1 octave that's all yours. That's a safe zone. Spend a lot of time in it. It's not that playing up higher on the neck isn't cool. It's not that it's not musically right sometimes, but you need to be judicious. So if you're playing with guitar players that like to use nice, big, full chords, they're using their bass strings. They call them bass strings on a guitar, their lowest strings. If they're playing down there, you really should probably stay down in the lowest octave of your instrument just to keep things separated. If they're playing up and high, feel free to go crazy. Go up that neck. Do something exciting. Bass playing doesn't have to be in the lowest octave. And this is a big stylistic point. There are some styles of bass playing that never leave the bottom 12 semitones. There's others that spend most of their time in the middle. But those are sort of special forms of music that are very, very well arranged. I like to think of the classic for me is Paul McCartney and the Beatles. Paul was all over that neck. He did play the lowest octave frequently, but when I think of what a Paul McCartney part is, it's very melodic. It's sing-songy. It's just very dynamic and all over the place in the middle of the guitar neck, of the bass guitar neck. That's cool, and a lot of people aspire to it, but understand that his musicians played on either side of that. They weren't playing in that same region in those same ways at the same time. So everybody had an eye on what the other one was doing, which is why the pieces fit together like a puzzle. If you're in that kind of a band, great. And if you're that kind of a player, great. But I know other bass players who never, ever, ever play above the lowest octave of their instrument. Reggae is a pretty typical genre for low down only. It's dance music, and dance music is about bass. It's about a kick drum and the bass making big sounds down there, and that's what gets the booty shaking. So have an eye on the function of your job. Let that determine your part, and you may find yourself saying, in verses, I find it interesting to play up the neck and to play a little melody and to take a little moment of spotlight, but then for the chorus, I go back down to the lowest octave. I mind my functional role and power up the band from behind. That's kind of a technique that I use. That's my strategy. And if ever I'm in doubt, or I'm forced to sit in on a new experience with new players and new music that I'm unsure of, I will stay down in the lowest octave until I'm certain I know how this song is going and where the other musicians' parts are. Because to jump the gun and play into the muddy midsection region of our neck, it's a bad idea. But it's always safe to play down in your lowest octave. This is from my book, Bass Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts. And in Bass Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts, I also have a chapter on playing with other musicians. And this was one of my paragraphs near the end of this chapter. Don't be afraid to keep things simple. Avoid flashy rhythms, licks, hard to reach intervals, and aim for simple music components. Some artists, even musical legends, make careers out of this concept. Amen. It's really true. When you start picking apart some of your favorite songs, they may come down to very simple parts. It's just that they were the tasty thing to play at the right time. Keep your eyes and ears out for how you can help the song, help the unity of the band as a whole. And you will find much more satisfaction in your music, and your fellow musicians will thank you as well. You know, I've said it before on this show, and it's always true. I love left-handed musicians. Paul McCartney, Jimi Hendrix, lefties. I love writing books for lefties too, because too often you're left out of the conversation, and it's really hard to get good music education if you happen to be born a left-handed person. Well, I've made my books, Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts, and Bass Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts, available for lefties as well. I find a real benefit to not have to do that mirror flipping of chord diagrams and things in your head and trying to make sense. You've got enough on your plate to learn. It's just nice to see the chord diagram that applies to you and your instrument right off the bat. Get you there faster and get you there better. I love lefties. For more on arranging and theory, check out my books, Left-Handed Guitar Theory Nuts and Bolts and Left-Handed Bass Guitar Theory Nuts and Bolts, available at seeingmusicbooks.com. If you're a listener to this show, you know what time it is. What time is it? It's time to nerd out. It's when we get the nerd out and go double deep on the nerdy. Two scoops of nerd. I like having something for you more advanced players because maybe you've been arranging your parts inside of a band, or you knew to keep your bass part in the down low. Well, I've got a couple more ideas that I'd like you to consider that maybe are new. When you're listening to recordings this week, listen to recordings of the bands that you consider tight. Like, they have something to play about, you know? What is it that makes them tight? Probably, chances are, it's the arrangement. So listen to the arrangement of the guitars versus the bass. Does the bass player take a solo? And if so, what do the guitar players do at that moment? You know, they say professionals don't borrow, they steal. Steal that idea. Steal that idea of arrangement. If you're a guitar player and the bass player has a solo, he's stepping out, notice what to do and keep it in the back of your mind. Oh, maybe I'll just sprinkle some notes. I won't play a full chord. I'm going to come down in volume. Little bits of arrangement that help that particular instrument solo shine. Try this experiment. Try arranging yourself. Try arranging yourself in a solo piece. It could be anything. It can be a song that you've been working on currently, but imagine that part is the only thing that a listener will hear. What will you do to make it interesting? What can you do to provide a little bit of harmonic or rhythmic variety that keeps the ears engaged, that hooks people in and says, wow, that was an unexpected turn of events. I wonder what that person's going to do next. Will you use the same chords and voicings in the chorus as you did in the verse? How about the rhythm? Sometimes the answer should be yes. Yes, those need to be the same. But often there's some room to provide some rhythmic variety or some harmonic or voicing variety by playing the same chord, D major, in two different places, right? Bass players, I want you to try this too. You know, it's totally possible for us bass players to play a complete song. We usually don't get asked to, but I think we should. If you needed to play a whole song by yourself to entertain somebody, the guitar players and drummers both went to the bar and left you on stage, how would you keep the audience going? You can do this. You know, maybe you fooled around with playing some simple chords. Maybe you would use two notes way up high. Or maybe you would just play one low down note. Would you play all of it down low, but with varied rhythms in the verse and chorus? These are amazing questions to ask yourself because it will make your part inside of band practice that much better if you know that you have the ability to arrange yourself and make your part interesting all on its own. All right, we've explored harmonic and rhythmic arrangement for playing better, making better music with a full band. Remember, it's all about listening and working together to create great music as a whole. Thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to this podcast and sharing it with your friends. I really appreciate it. I can see it in the numbers. I know you're out there, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is my livelihood. Not really this podcast. This is just something I do. But selling books, that's what I like to do. I'm a guitar teacher as well as a guitarist, as well as a bassist. And I love writing great books. I believe that Seeing Music Books, my company, has some of the best titles, the most informative and fresh ways to learn guitar music. Some of the best books that have ever been made. I really believe in what I do, and I'm humbled every time somebody makes an order on Amazon, and I thank you for giving me your trust. The world needs better music. You know it. I know it. Your audience knows it, and you've got great music inside of you. Let's get it out and into the world. Everybody wants to hear you. They want to hear your ideas, your personality, your feelings, your thoughts. Let's do it. It's with little bits of nerdy garage stuff like we talk about on this show that music gets better, that we share with each other how we do what we do. Music is alive. It's never been dead, and it never will be. Experiment this week with your band arrangements or your solo arrangements. See how they change your sound. Listen to your favorite bands and notice how they arrange their parts. Then ask yourself, how will I emulate that? It's a great place to start for free. Until next time, have a great nerdy week. I'm Andy Schneider, and you've been listening to Guitar Nerd.